Welcome back. If this is your first time here, we are glad you found this place. And if you have been here before, thank you for coming back. It means more than you know. This channel exists for one reason: to take the oldest stories ever told and let them do what they have always been designed to do. Calm the anxious mind, steady the fearful heart, sit with the grieving one, fill the silence of the sleepless night with something true and good and worth holding on to. No noise, no rush, just the stories, told slowly, the way they deserve to be told. If these videos have helped you, if you have fallen asleep to one of them or found your breathing slow down or felt something settle in your chest that had been tight all day, share it with someone who needs it. That is how this kind of thing travels, one person at a time, one tired heart pointing another towards something that helped. Subscribe if you want more. There is more coming, more stories, more voices from the oldest book in the world speaking directly into the middle of whatever today has been. And leave a comment if you want to. Tell us what you are carrying, tell us what helped. This is a community of people who are all just trying to find a little stillness in a world that does not stop moving. You are welcome here, however you arrived, whatever the day has been. Now, breathe and let the stories begin. Slow down, whatever you were doing before you pressed play, whatever the day has been, whatever is still unresolved and sitting at the edge of your thoughts, waiting to come back the moment you stop moving. Slow down. You do not have to figure anything out right now. You do not have to make any decisions or solve any problems or carry anything that does not need to be carried in this moment. Right now you can just be still and listen. The stories we are going to tell are old. Some of them are thousands of years old. They were told around fires and passed from parent to child across generations before they were ever written down. And they have been doing what good stories always do, carrying the weight of human experience, naming the things we feel but cannot always say, reminding us that we are not the first people to feel overwhelmed, or afraid, or lost in the middle of something we did not choose. You are not the first. And the God who met the people in these stories is the same God who is present with you right now, in whatever room you're in whatever season you are carrying, in whatever hour of the night or the day this finds you. He is here. He has always been here. And these stories are one of the ways he speaks. So breathe and let the stories come. There was a man named Elijah. He was a prophet, one of the greatest in the history of Israel. A man who had stood before kings and spoken the word of God without flinching, who had prayed and shut the rain from the sky for 3 years, who had stood on Mount Carmel in front of hundreds of prophets of Baal and called fire down from heaven and watched the people fall on their faces and cry out, "The Lord, He is God." He had seen fire fall from heaven. And then a queen named Jezebel sent him a message. She said, "By this time tomorrow, I will make your life like the life of those prophets you just killed." And Elijah ran. The man who had called fire from heaven, who had faced down an entire nation, who had stood fearless in front of a corrupt king, ran into the wilderness because of a threatening message from a woman. He ran a day's journey into the wilderness, and he sat down under a broom tree, and he asked God to take his life. "I have had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." And then he lay down under the tree, and he slept. This is the first thing the story gives us. Not a rebuke, not a lecture on the weakness of his faith, not a reminder of all the ways God had come through before, and therefore Elijah had no reason to be afraid. He was allowed to be exhausted. He was allowed to lie down. He was allowed to sleep. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is rest. And God let Elijah rest. While he slept, an angel touched him. "Get up and eat," the angel said. Elijah looked around, and there by his head was a cake of bread baked over hot coals, and a jar of water. He ate, and he drank, and he lay down again. The angel came back a second time, and touched him again. "Get up and eat. The journey is too much for you. The journey is too much for you. Not you are too weak for the journey. Not you should be stronger than this. Not why are you lying here when there is work to be done. The journey is too much for you." An acknowledgement, a recognition, God seeing clearly what Elijah was carrying and naming it without shame. The journey is too much, so eat, so drink, so rest, so that you have something to walk on when the walking needs to begin again. Elijah got up and ate and drank, and strengthened by that food he traveled 40 days and 40 nights, all the way to Horeb, the mountain of God, 2 meals, 2 moments of rest, under a broom tree in the wilderness, and then 40 days of walking. The rest was not laziness, the rest was preparation. The food was not indulgence, the food was fuel for the road ahead. Whatever you are carrying right now, whatever has made you run into your own wilderness and sit down under your own tree and say, I have had enough, the angel is touching you. Get up and eat. The journey is too much for you. Rest is not failure. Rest is the grace that makes the next part of the road possible. There is a psalm that begins with these words, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." You have heard it before. Almost certainly, it is the psalm read at more funerals and in more hospital rooms and at more bedsides than any other piece of writing in human history. It has been memorized by children and whispered by the dying and read aloud in the darkest moments of human experience for 3,000 years. And it begins with a picture of rest. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He makes me lie down. Not suggests, not invites, makes. As though the shepherd knows that the sheep will not stop moving on its own, that the sheep will keep going until it collapses if no one intervenes. And so the shepherd makes the sheep lie down. In green pastures, in the place where there is enough, where the grass is soft and the water is near and the sun is warm and nothing is required. He leads me beside quiet waters. Quiet waters. Not rushing water. Not the kind of water that demands your attention and pulls you downstream. Quiet water, still water. The kind you can sit beside and feel your breathing change and your shoulders drop and the noise in your head begin to slow. He restores my soul. The word for restore in the Hebrew is a word that means to bring back, to return something to where it was, the soul that has been pulled in too many directions, scattered by too many demands, worn thin by too much noise. He brings it back. He returns it to itself. Lie down in the green pasture for a moment. Let the quiet water do its work. Let the shepherd restore what the weak has scattered. In the beginning, God made everything. The text of Genesis moves through the days of creation with a kind of steady rhythm. And God said, and it was so. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, evening and morning, evening and morning. The days measured not from sunrise to sunrise, but from sunset to sunrise. The day beginning in the dark, in the rest, and moving toward the light. And on the 7th day, God finished his work. And he rested. God rested, the maker of everything. The one who spoke galaxies into existence and breathed life into dust and set the stars in their courses and filled the oceans and covered the earth with green, rested not because he was tired. He does not grow weary. Isaiah tells us that. The everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not faint or grow weary. He rested because rest is holy. He rested to show us something about the rhythm of existence that we were going to need to be shown. That the work is not everything. That the making is not the only thing that matters. That stopping and being present in what has been made is itself a sacred act. He blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested. Rest is not empty. Rest is not the absence of something meaningful. Rest is holy. It was declared holy before the fall, before the world became complicated and driven and loud. In the original design, before anything went wrong, rest was already there, built into the fabric of the week. By God, for us, because he knew we would need it. You are allowed to rest. It was always part of the plan. There was a storm on the Sea of Galilee. The disciples were in the boat. They had been with Jesus all day, watching him teach and heal and speak to crowds of people who pressed in from every direction. And when evening came, Jesus said, "Let us go to the other side." So they left the crowd and got in the boat. And Jesus went to the back of the boat. And he fell asleep on a cushion. He fell asleep, the Son of God, in a boat on the Sea of Galilee, asleep on a cushion. The weight of their needs and speaking the words of the kingdom into the noise of the world, he slept. And then the storm came, a furious squall. The waves broke over the boat, and the disciples were terrified. They woke him. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up. He rebuked the wind. He said to the waves, "Quiet. Be still," and the wind died, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And they were terrified and amazed. "Who is this?" Even the wind and the waves obey him. But before the miracle, before the rebuking of the wind and the stilling of the waves, before any of it, he was asleep. He modeled the rest before he demonstrated the power. He showed them that it was possible to sleep through the storm before he showed them that the storm could be stopped. Because sometimes the most faithful thing is not the dramatic intervention. Sometimes the most faithful thing is the willingness to rest while the storm rages. Trusting that the one who can still the waves is in the boat. He is in the boat, even when he seems to be asleep. He is in the boat. Mary and Martha had a brother named Lazarus, and Mary used to sit at the feet of Jesus. When he came to their home in Bethany, she would settle herself at his feet and listen. Just listen. To every word, without moving, without doing anything, just present, just receiving. And Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to Jesus and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." And Jesus said, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Martha, Martha, the repetition of her name is tender, not a rebuke delivered coldly, a gentle calling, the way you say the name of someone you love when you want them to stop and hear you. Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things. He saw it, the anxiety of it, the distraction of it, the way the preparations had multiplied until they filled her entire attention and she could no longer see what was right in front of her. Few things are needed, or indeed only one. One thing, in a life full of many things pressing for attention and priority and urgency, one thing is needed. And Mary found it by sitting down, by stopping, by being present at the feet of the one who had come to be with them. What would it mean right now to sit at the feet of Jesus, to stop the preparations, to let the many things wait for a moment, and to just be present with the one thing that is actually needed? Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Sit down for a moment. Just sit. There is a verse in the book of Isaiah that has been reaching people in the middle of their exhaustion for 2,700 years. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That is Jesus in Matthew. But Isaiah said something similar centuries before. In chapter 40, he gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Even youths grow tired and weary. Isaiah is not surprised by your exhaustion. He does not find it unexpected or shameful. Even the young, even the strong, even the ones who should have the most energy and the most resilience, even they grow tired. And young men stumble and fall. The stumbling is acknowledged. The falling is acknowledged. Not as failure, as reality, as the honest description of what it is to be human in a world that asks more than we always have to give. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. The renewal is not self-generated. It is not produced by trying harder or sleeping more or taking better care of yourself. It comes from hoping, from waiting on God, from turning toward the one who does not grow weary and asking him for what you cannot produce on your own. They will soar on wings like eagles, after the weariness, after the stumbling, after the falling, wings, not because the difficulty went away, but because the strength was renewed by the one who gives it freely to the ones who ask. You are weary, that is known, that is seen, and the strength that is not yours is available. It has always been available. To the ones who hope, the disciples came to Jesus with a question. Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child to him, and had the child stand among them. Truly I tell you, he said, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. A child, the disciples were asking about greatness, and Jesus pointed to a child, a small person, someone with no power, no status, no resume, no achievements to present, no accomplishments to justify their place in the room. A child who received, who trusted, who was not yet old enough to believe that everything depended on their own effort and cleverness and performance. There is something about the anxiety that drives most adult human lives that is foreign to the way God designed us to live. The constant calculating, The constant managing of impressions, the constant worry about whether we are doing enough and being enough and producing enough to justify our place in the world. A child does not do any of that. A child simply receives, simply trusts, simply rests in the care of the one who is responsible for their well-being. Become like a little child, not naive, not irresponsible, not disengaged from the real demands of real life, but small enough to receive, trusting enough to rest, free enough from the weight of self-justification to simply be present in the moment without needing to earn it. The kingdom belongs to children, and to the people who have learned to be like them, the ones who have put down the weight of proving themselves and picked up the lightness of being simply held. You are held, right now, by the one who needs nothing from you to love you. Just receive it, like a child. Be still, and know that I am God. 6 words from Psalm 46. 6 words that have been spoken into the noise of human life for 3,000 years and have not lost a single ounce of their weight. Be still, not be productive, not be useful, not be impressive or disciplined or spiritually advanced. Be still. The word in the Hebrew means to let go, to release, to drop the thing you have been holding with both hands and let it fall, to stop striving, to cease the endless, effortful management of everything that feels like it will collapse if you are not holding it together. Let go, and know that I am God. The knowing follows the stillness. You cannot know it while you are moving at full speed, while the noise is at full volume, while every moment is filled with the next thing demanding your attention. The knowing happens in the still, in the space after the letting go, in the moment when the hands are open and the striving has stopped and the silence is finally allowed to be silence. I am God, not you, not the plans you are making, not the worries you are carrying, not the outcomes you are trying to control. I am God, in the earth giving way, in the mountains falling into the sea, in the waters roaring and foaming, in the nations in uproar, in all the noise and all the chaos and all the things that feel like they are too large and too fast and too out of control. I am God, be still, and let that be enough for right now. Let the stillness come, let the hands open, let the knowing settle into the quiet like light settling into a room when the curtains are finally drawn back. Be still and know. Fear is not a sign that something has gone wrong with you. It is a sign that you are human, that you are alive, that you have things you love and things you stand to lose and a nervous system that is doing exactly what nervous systems do when the world feels uncertain and large and beyond your control. Fear is human. Every person in every story we are about to tell was afraid at some point. The great ones and the ordinary ones, the prophets and the fishermen, the mothers and the kings, all of them afraid. And what the stories show us is not people who stopped being afraid by trying harder or believing more. What the stories show us is people who were afraid and found that something was with them in the fear, something steadier than the fear, something larger than the thing they were afraid of, that something has a name, and the name appears in these stories again and again, in every kind of darkness and every kind of danger and every kind of sleepless night. Do not be afraid, I am with you. Not I have removed the thing you are afraid of. Not I have made the situation safe. Not the fear is unreasonable, so stop feeling it. I am with you. That is the promise, not the removal of the difficulty, the presence in the middle of it. And for the people in these stories, that presence was enough, not always immediately, not always without the shaking and the crying and the long nights, but enough. In the end, always enough. Let the stories speak. Hagar was running. She was an Egyptian slave woman. She belonged to Sarah, the wife of Abraham. And when Sarah could not conceive a child, she gave Hagar to Abraham to bear a child on her behalf, as was the custom of the time. Hagar became pregnant, and the dynamic between the two women became impossible. Sarah treated Hagar harshly, and Hagar ran into the wilderness alone, pregnant, with nothing and no one. She was beside a spring of water in the wilderness, on the road to Shur, and the angel of the Lord found her there, found her in the wilderness, on a road that led nowhere useful, alone and afraid and carrying a child inside her. The angel of the Lord found her. "Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from and where are you going?" She answered honestly, "I am running away from my mistress Sarah." And the angel spoke to her, told her to go back, told her that she would have a son, that she should name him Ishmael, which means God hears, because God had heard of her misery. And Hagar did something remarkable. She gave a name to the God who had spoken to her. She called him El Roi, the God who sees me. "You are the God who sees me," she said. She was a slave, an Egyptian, a woman with no power and no status and no claim on the covenant promises that had been made to Abraham. And God found her in the wilderness and saw her and spoke to her. El Roi, the God who sees, he saw Hagar when no one else was looking, when she was alone and afraid on a road to nowhere. He sees you too, right now, in whatever wilderness you are in, whatever road you are on. He is El Roi, the God who sees. And he has not looked away from you. Gideon was hiding. He was threshing wheat in a winepress. Which sounds unremarkable until you understand what it means. You thresh wheat on a threshing floor, an open elevated place where the wind can carry the chaff away. You do not thresh wheat in a winepress. A winepress is a pit, a hollow in the ground, a hidden place. Gideon was threshing wheat in a pit because he was hiding it from the Midianites, who had been raiding Israel for years, coming at harvest time and taking everything, every crop, every animal, leaving nothing. The Israelites were reduced to hiding in mountain clefts and caves, making secret shelters in the ground just to preserve a little food. This was the situation. This was the fear. This was the grinding, daily, suffocating anxiety of a people who had been crushed for 7 years. And the angel of the Lord came and sat under the oak tree and said to Gideon, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon was in a pit, hiding, threshing wheat in secret so no one would take it. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." He did not look like a mighty warrior. He felt like a frightened man in a hole, and God called him mighty warrior before he had done a single mighty thing, before the army was assembled, before the fleece was laid out, before any of it. The identity was given before the evidence existed, and Gideon argued, "Pardon me, my Lord, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all the wonders our ancestors told us about?" He was afraid, he was confused, he did not feel like a mighty warrior. He felt like a man in a pit. God said, "Go in the strength you have. Have I not sent you? The strength you have, not the strength you wish you had, not the strength you will have once the fear goes away, the strength you have right now. In the pit, in the hiding, in the middle of the anxiety, go in that strength, because I have sent you. And that is enough. Do not be afraid, little flock." Jesus said this, in the middle of a long teaching about anxiety and provision and the tendency of human hearts to worry about everything at once. "Look at the birds of the air," he said. "They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they are? Can any one of you by worrying add a single hour to your life? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you? Do not worry then, saying, 'What shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear?' For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Each day has enough trouble of its own." There is something almost tender about that line. Not a dismissal of the trouble, not a promise that the trouble will not come, an acknowledgement that the trouble is real, and a gentle invitation to carry only today's portion of it, not tomorrow's, not next week's, not the whole accumulated weight of every possible thing that might go wrong, just today, just this moment, just what is actually in front of you right now. The birds are fed, the flowers are clothed, your Father knows what you need. Do not be afraid, little flock. Daniel was thrown into a den of lions, not because he had done anything wrong, because he had done everything right. He prayed 3 times a day with his windows open toward Jerusalem. He had done it his whole life. And the men who were jealous of his influence had convinced the king to make it illegal. And Daniel prayed anyway, and they threw him to the lions. The king was distressed. He had liked Daniel. He had not intended for the law to be used this way. But the law of the Medes and Persians could not be revoked. And Daniel was in the den. The king spent the night fasting. He could not sleep. At the first light of dawn he hurried to the den and called in an anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to rescue you from the lions?" And Daniel answered, "May the king live forever. My God sent his angel and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight." The king was overjoyed. My God sent his angel and he shut the mouths of the lions. Daniel did not know that was going to happen when they threw him in. He did not have advance notice of the angel. He went into the den the same way everyone goes into the frightening place, without knowing what would be waiting on the other side of it. And the angel was there. The mouths were shut. The lions did not touch him. You do not know what is waiting on the other side of the frightening place. But the God who sends angels is the same God who knows you are there, and the mouths that need to be shut can be shut by the one who shuts them. You are not alone in the den. The boy Samuel was sleeping. He was in the temple of the Lord at Shiloh. He was very young. He was serving the priest Eli. And the lamp of God had not yet gone out. And Samuel was lying down, and the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and ran to Eli. "Here I am, you called me." "I did not call," Eli said. "Go back and lie down." So Samuel went back and lay down. And the Lord called again, "Samuel." And Samuel got up again and went to Eli. "Here I am, you called me." "My son, I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli. And Eli realized, the Lord is calling the boy. "Go and lie down," Eli said. "And if he calls you again, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" Samuel went back and lay down. And the Lord came and stood there, and called as at the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening. Speak, for your servant is listening." There is something very quiet and very small about this moment. A boy, in the dark, in the temple, on a night when the word of the Lord was rare, when visions were not common, when the silence had been long, and God spoke into the silence, gently enough that Samuel thought it was an old man calling him from another room. God speaks quietly sometimes, into the dark, into the ordinary night, into the moments when nothing dramatic is happening and the lamp has not yet gone out and you are just lying there in the stillness. Speak, for your servant is listening. That posture, that openness, that simple willingness to hear, is sometimes all that is required. The angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, not once, multiple times. The whole early life of Jesus was navigated by a man who received directions in his sleep, when Mary was found to be pregnant before they were married. Joseph had decided to quietly end the engagement, and an angel appeared to him in a dream. "Do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife." He woke up and did what the angel had told him. When the wise men had come and gone, an angel appeared to him in a dream again. "Get up, take the child and his mother, and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child." He got up that night and left for Egypt. When Herod died, an angel appeared to him in a dream again. "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel." He got up and went. Joseph received the most important navigational instructions of his life while he was asleep. God did not wait for Joseph to be alert and at his desk and ready to receive direction. God came to him in the night, in the sleep, in the unguarded, undefended, fully resting place, and Joseph trusted what he received in the dark and moved on it in the light. God can speak in the night, in the sleep, in the hours when your conscious mind has finally gone quiet and the noise of the day has faded and there is nothing left but rest. He spoke to Joseph in that space. He spoke to Samuel in that space. He has been speaking in the dark since the beginning. The night is not empty. The sleep is not wasted. The quiet hours are not hours when God goes silent. He is there, in the dark, speaking to the ones who have finally become still enough to hear, "Do not be afraid." It is the most repeated command in the entire Bible, more than any other instruction, more than any other word of direction or correction or guidance. Do not be afraid. 365 times in some counts, one for every day of the year. As though God knew we were going to need the reminder daily. As though the fear was going to come back every morning with the light and we were going to need to be told again, "Do not be afraid. I am with you. Do not be afraid. I have called you by name. Do not be afraid. I am your God. Do not be afraid. I will strengthen you and help you. Do not be afraid. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." As though God wanted to make absolutely certain that the point was not missed. That no one could read those verses and think the reassurance was only for the people who were slightly nervous about minor things. 5 times. For the afraid. For the deeply afraid. For the afraid who have been afraid for a long time and are beginning to wonder if the fear is just permanent now. Do not be afraid. Not because the things that frighten you are not real. They may be very real. Not because the danger has passed. It may still be present. Because I am with you. Because I have called you by name. Because I am your God. Because I will strengthen and help you. Because I am holding you up with a hand that does not get tired and does not let go. Do not be afraid. Let that settle over you right now like a blanket in the cold. Let it say what it has been trying to say all day, all week, all through the long season of the fear. Do not be afraid. I am with you. There is one more story for this part. It is a short one, just a moment. A single scene from the life of Peter. Jesus had been walking on the water, the disciples were in the boat, and they were afraid because they thought they were seeing a ghost. And Jesus said to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter said, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," Jesus said. And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. And then he saw the wind, and he was afraid, and he began to sink, and he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Immediately. Not after Peter had learned his lesson, not after an appropriate period of sinking that would teach him the consequences of taking his eyes off Jesus. Immediately. The moment the cry went up, the hand came out. "You of little faith," Jesus said, "why did you doubt?" The rebuke is gentle, and it comes after the rescue. The hand came first, the question came second. Peter was safe before he was corrected, and that is the shape of grace in the frightening moments. The rescue comes before the lesson, the hand reaches out immediately, while you are still sinking, while the fear is still at its worst, while the water is coming up around you and the wind is still loud and the boat is still far away. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. If you are sinking right now, if the wind is loud and the water is rising and the boat feels very far away, cry out. The hand is already reaching. It always reaches immediately. It has never once been late. Grief does not need to be explained away. It does not need to be fixed or rushed through or arrived at the other side of as quickly as possible. Grief is not a problem to be solved. It is a passage to be walked, and the walking takes the time it takes. And no amount of well-meaning words or reasonable perspective or spiritual encouragement can make it shorter than it is. The Bible knows this. The Bible is full of people who grieved, who wept, who sat in the ash and tore their clothes and cried out to God in the middle of the dark with no assurance that the light was coming, who wrote psalms that began with, "Why have you forgotten me, and how long, Lord, and my tears have been my food day and night." The grief in Scripture is not sanitized. It is not performed at a respectable distance. It is close and ugly and honest in a way that the neat, tidy version of faith is not always comfortable with. And God meets people in the grief, not by removing it, not by explaining it, not by offering a theological framework that makes it manageable, by being present in it, by sitting in the ash alongside the one who is sitting there. That is what these stories are. Stories of grief met by presence, of loss held by something larger than the loss, of the dark that does not last forever even when it feels like it will. You are allowed to grieve, fully, without apology, and you are not alone in it. Naomi lost everything. Her husband, in the land of Moab, where they had gone to escape a famine, and then both of her sons, one after the other, leaving her with nothing but 2 foreign daughters-in-law and no way home and no future that she could see. She told her daughters-in-law to go back to their own families, to find new husbands, to start over. She had nothing to offer them. One of them turned back. But the other one, Ruth, held on. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates us. Ruth held on, and they walked back to Bethlehem together. The 2 of them. When they arrived, the whole town was stirred. Is this Naomi? The women asked, and Naomi said, Don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me, the Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. She did not dress up the grief. She did not say the Lord gives and the Lord takes away, and blessed be his name, though that is also true. She said, I am empty, I am bitter. Call me by the name that tells the truth about what I am carrying. And the story did not end there. The story of Naomi does not end in Bethlehem with the bitterness. It ends with a grandchild in her arms, and the women of the town saying to her, Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. The emptiness was real, the bitterness was real, and the fullness that came after was also real. Both things are in the story, held together without pretending either one away. Jesus wept, 2 words, the shortest verse in the Bible. And among the most important, Lazarus had died. His sisters Mary and Martha had sent word to Jesus, Lord, the one you love is sick. And Jesus had not come immediately, he had waited. And by the time he arrived, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. Martha came out to meet him. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Mary came and fell at his feet. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. The same words from both sisters, the same grief, the same question underneath the words. Why weren't you here? Where were you? This didn't have to happen. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. Where have you laid him? He asked. Come and see, Lord, they said. Jesus wept. He knew what he was about to do. He knew Lazarus was going to walk out of that tomb. He knew the grief was about to become joy. He had the power to end it with a word, and he had already decided to use that power. And he still wept. He wept because they were weeping. He wept because grief is a real thing that deserves a real response. He wept because love, when it is present in the middle of loss, does not stand at a clinical distance and explain why everything is going to be all right. It weeps, the God of the universe, standing at a tomb, weeping with the people he loved. He is not unmoved by your grief. He is not waiting patiently on the other side of it for you to get there. He is in it with you. Weeping, present, moved. Jesus wept. Job sat in the ashes. He had lost his children, all of them, in a single day. His livestock, his servants, everything he had built over a lifetime, gone. And then his health, painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. His wife said to him, Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. And his friends came, Eliphaz and Bildad and Zophar. They came to comfort him, and when they saw him from a distance they could barely recognize him. They wept aloud and tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads, and they sat down on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him because they saw how great his suffering was. 7 days, 7 nights, sitting on the ground, in silence. That is the truest thing Job's friends ever did. Everything they said after that, all the long speeches and theological explanations and subtle accusations, those were the failures. But the 7 days of silence, the sitting on the ground together, the being present without explaining, that was right. Grief does not always need words. It often needs presence without words, the willingness to sit in the ash with someone, to not fill the silence with explanations, to just be there, in the dark, alongside. And Job spoke. He cursed the day of his birth. He asked why. He did not tie the grief up neatly. He let it be what it was, and he brought all of it directly to God. His anger and his confusion and his why and his I do not understand and his where are you? And God answered Job out of the storm, not with explanations, with presence, with the overwhelming reality of who he is and how large the world is and how much has been made and held and known by the one Job was speaking to. Job was not answered, he was encountered, and the encounter was enough. The Psalms of Lament are among the most honest writing in all of Scripture. They are poems of grief and confusion and abandonment and despair written directly to God. Not about God, to Him, in the second person, face to face with the difficulty. Psalm 88 is the darkest of them. It is the only lament psalm that does not end with a turn toward praise or hope. It ends in darkness. Lord, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like one without strength. You have put me in the lowest pit, in the darkest depths. Your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. Why, Lord, do you reject me and hide your face from me? And the psalm ends in darkness, no resolution, no turn, no final affirmation that everything will be all right. The darkness and the crying out, that is the whole psalm, and it is in the Bible, preserved, included, given a number and a place in the canon of Scripture that has been read and sung by God's people for 3,000 years. Because God does not require us to arrive at the hopeful ending before we can bring Him the honest darkness. He receives the darkness. He holds the psalm that ends in the pit without demanding that it conclude somewhere more comfortable. If you are in Psalm 88 right now, if you do not have a hopeful ending to offer, bring the darkness as it is. It is received. It has always been received. Ruth went to the field. After everything, after the death and the journey and the return to Bethlehem and Naomi's bitterness and the two women alone with nothing, Ruth went to the field to glean, to walk behind the harvesters and pick up whatever they left behind, the lowest position, the work of the destitute. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz. She happened to. The text says it that way, as though it was chance, as though she simply ended up in the right part of the field without knowing why. And Boaz happened to come from Bethlehem at that moment, and noticed her. Who is that young woman? He found out she was Ruth, the Moabite woman who had come back with Naomi, and he spoke to her. My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in another field and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled. She bowed down with her face to the ground. Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me? A foreigner, Boaz told her. I have been told all about what you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother and your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know before. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Under whose wings you have come to take refuge, in the grief and the loss and the hard work of survival. Ruth had come under the wings of God, without knowing exactly when it had happened, without a dramatic moment of arrival. She had just kept going. One field, one day, one act of faithfulness at a time, and the wings were already there. There is a moment in the Gospel of John that is easy to pass by if you are moving too quickly. After the resurrection, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. It was still dark. She came in the dark, before dawn, before anyone else, because she could not stay away, because grief does not wait for daylight, because love does not stop showing up just because the one it loves is gone. She saw the stone had been moved, and she ran, and came back with Peter and John, and they looked in the tomb and went back to where they were staying. But Mary stood outside the tomb crying. Everyone else had gone. The disciples had come and seen and left, and Mary stood there, weeping still. Alone in the early morning outside an empty tomb, she bent over and looked in, and saw two angels. "Woman, why are you crying?" they asked. "They have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they have put him." She turned around and saw someone standing there and did not recognize him. "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." She was going to carry him, alone, if she had to. And Jesus said one word, Mary, her name, the way he had always said it. And she knew immediately, Rabboni, teacher. The grief did not last forever. It felt like it would. It always feels like it will. And then the name is spoken, the specific name, in the voice that knows exactly how to say it. Your name is known. The voice that speaks it is real. The dawn is coming. Even now. Even in the dark outside the tomb, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147. A psalm of praise, sung to a God who counts the stars and calls them each by name, and whose understanding has no limit. And in the middle of it, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, not as a side project, not as an afterthought between the greater work of holding the universe together, as part of the same description of who he is. The one who sustains the galaxies and the one who tends to the broken heart are the same one. The binding of wounds is cosmic work. It is not small. It is not beneath the dignity of the God who names the stars, binds up their wounds. The image is of a careful, attentive wrapping, not a quick fix, not a spiritual bandage applied from a distance, a close, careful, deliberate tending to the specific place that is broken, the specific wound, the specific grief. He does not apply generic comfort to specific pain. He comes close enough to see exactly where it hurts, and he wraps it, carefully, with the same hands that set the stars in place. Your grief is not too small for him. Your broken heart is not too specific or too complicated or too long-standing for his attention. He heals the brokenhearted. He binds up their wounds. Let that be enough for right now. Not an explanation of why the grief came, not a promise of when it will end, just the truth of who he is. The one who names the stars also tends the broken heart, and he knows your name, and he knows exactly where it hurts, and his hands are already on the wound, binding it carefully, with all the attention of the one who counts every star and does not lose a single one. The night is its own kind of world. In the day there is movement and noise and the company of other people, and the next task always arriving before the last one is finished. The day keeps you moving, and the moving keeps certain things at bay. The thoughts that live in the quiet, the worries that wait politely through the hours of activity and then arrive all at once the moment the lights go out. You know this. If you are listening to this in the night hours, you know exactly what it is to lie still while the mind refuses to do the same. The people in these stories knew it too. David wrote psalms in the night. Jacob wrestled through an entire night. Jesus prayed in the dark hours before the hardest day of his life. The night is not a new problem. It has always been the time when human beings most acutely feel the weight of their smallness and the size of everything pressing in from the edges. And God has always been present in the night, not more present than in the day, but often more clearly felt, because the noise is gone, the activity has stopped, and the quiet that can feel so threatening is also the quiet in which the still small voice has always been most audible. The night is not empty. It never has been. Let these stories fill it gently, and let the presence that has always been in the dark hours make itself known again. Isaac went out to meditate in the field one evening. The text just says that. He went out to meditate in the field at evening time, as though this was something he did regularly, as though the evening field was his place. The place he went when the day was done and there was space in the air for something quieter. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and there were camels approaching. His servant was returning, with Rebekah, the woman who would become his wife. But before that, before the camels, before the arrival of anyone, Isaac was in the field in the evening, meditating. The word in the Hebrew is suach. It can mean to meditate, to muse, to talk or complain or reflect. It is not a highly technical spiritual term. It is the word for a kind of wandering of the mind and heart in the presence of God. A being present with your own thoughts in a way that is open to something beyond them. Isaac went out to the field in the evening and let his mind be present. There is something to learn from this small detail, in a story that could have simply said Isaac was in the field when his servant arrived. The writer chose to tell us that he was meditating, that the evening was a time for him to be with something larger than the day's demands. The evening field is still available. You do not have to be in a literal field. The posture is available wherever you are. The willingness to go out from the noise and be present and open and quiet, to muse, to let the mind wander in the direction of God, to wait in the evening for whatever the evening holds. Isaac lifted his eyes and saw the camels coming. He was paying attention, he was present, and what was coming toward him arrived in a field made ready by stillness. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. Psalm 121. Read it slowly. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. He will not slumber, he will not sleep, on the nights when you cannot sleep, on the nights when the mind keeps moving and the hours pass and the light does not come as quickly as you need it to. Someone is awake, not anxiously awake, not awake because he is also worried, awake because he does not need sleep, awake because the watching over you is something he does continuously and completely and without interruption. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The moon by night. He thought of the night specifically. He watches over you in the night specifically. The hours when you are most aware of your own smallness and most likely to feel the absence of help. He is not absent in those hours. He is the shade at your right hand. Close, present, not distant. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore. Both now and forevermore. Right now. In this hour, in this night. He is watching. He has not looked away. He will not look away. His eyes are on you in the dark the same way they are on you in the light. You are watched over. You are kept. You are held in the night by the one who does not sleep. Rest in that if you can. Let the watching be enough. In the night, Jacob was alone. He had sent his family ahead across the ford of the Jabbok. He had sent everything he owned, and he was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until daybreak, all night. The wrestling went on all night, Jacob holding on, the man struggling to get free. And when the man saw that he could not overpower Jacob, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that the hip was wrenched. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. The sun rose. After the whole night of wrestling, the dark finally ended, and Jacob walked into the day carrying both the blessing and the limp. He got both, the encounter with God and the wound from it, the new name and the changed gait. The blessing was inseparable from the injury. The night of wrestling was inseparable from the dawn. If you are in a night of wrestling, if the struggle has been going on for hours and you are tired and your hip hurts and you cannot see how the dawn is going to come, hold on. Keep wrestling. Do not let go until you receive what the night has for you. The sun will rise, it always rises. And when it does, you may be limping, but you will have a new name, and the blessing will have been worth the night. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Proverbs 3. In the middle of a long passage about the wisdom of trusting God rather than leaning on your own understanding. About acknowledging Him in all your ways and letting Him make the paths straight. When you lie down, you will not be afraid. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. This is a promise connected to a posture. The posture of trust, of leaning not on your own understanding, of acknowledging God in the daily navigation of life rather than trying to figure everything out on your own. The sleep that is sweet is not the reward of a life with no problems. It is the rest that belongs to a person who has placed the problems in hands larger than their own, who has said, "I cannot carry this all night and neither do I have to," who has released the grip just enough to let the body do what the body needs to do. Have you ever noticed how the nights are longest when you are trying to solve something you cannot solve? When the mind is running through every possible scenario and every possible outcome and every possible thing you could do or should have done or might need to do, the mind in that state cannot rest. Because it believes that the resting is dangerous, that if it stops the thing will fall apart, that the problem requires its continuous attention to remain under control. But the problem does not require your continuous attention, it requires God's. And God does not need to sleep to tend to it. He is already tending to it right now while you lie here. He was tending to it before you woke up this morning. He will be tending to it after the sleep that's sweet is finally yours. You can let go. The night is held. The problem is known. The sleep is available. When you lie down, your sleep will be sweet. Nicodemus came to Jesus at night. He was a Pharisee, a member of the Jewish ruling council, a man of position and religious authority who had questions he could not ask in the daylight. Questions that were too dangerous, too destabilizing to the identity he had built and the community he was part of. So he came at night and said, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the signs you are doing if God were not with him." And Jesus said to him, "Very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again." They talked into the night about wind and spirit and being born of water and what it means to be lifted up. And somewhere in that nighttime conversation, Jesus said the words that have been the center of everything ever since. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." These words were spoken at night, to one man, in a private conversation, by the one who was himself the light of the world. And light came into the world in that conversation, not the blinding public kind, the quiet, intimate kind, the kind that is given to the person who comes in the dark with honest questions and sits long enough to hear the answer. If you are awake right now in the night, with questions that feel too large and too difficult for the daylight, bring them. Sit with them the way Nicodemus sat. Let the night be a place of honest conversation rather than anxious spinning. The light that came into the world is not diminished by the dark. It shines in the darkness. And the darkness has not overcome it. Let not your hearts be troubled. Jesus said this on the last night before his crucifixion to 11 men who were already troubled, who were confused and frightened and trying to understand things that were beyond their understanding in that moment. Let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. He said this on the worst night of his life, the night before the cross, with everything that was coming already visible to him. The arrest and the trials and the beatings and the nails, all of it known, all of it hours away. And he was comforting them, not explaining everything, not resolving all the confusion, not making the next days easier or less painful than they were going to be. He was speaking to their troubled hearts with the one thing that was actually true. There is a place being prepared. I am going to prepare it. I will come back. You will be where I am. Not I will make everything comfortable and clear right now, but I have hold of the end of the story. And the end of the story is that you are with me, in the house of the Father, in the room that has been prepared for you specifically. Let not your hearts be troubled. The night is temporary. The trouble is temporary. The confusion is temporary. The rooms are permanent. The preparing is already underway. The coming back is certain. Let not your hearts be troubled. Breathe. Let the troubled heart receive the words that were spoken for it. On the worst night, by the one who knew exactly how dark it was going to get, and went into the dark anyway, so that you would not have to go alone when I am afraid. I put my trust in you. Psalm 56. Written by David, probably when he was in Gath, surrounded by enemies, far from home, in the kind of danger that keeps you awake all night with your heart loud in your chest. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you, not when I am no longer afraid, not after the fear has passed, when I am afraid, in the middle of it. While the heart is still loud and the darkness is still thick and the danger is still present, I put my trust in you, in God whose word I praise, in God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? Record my misery. List my tears on your scroll. Are they not in your record? The tears are recorded. The misery is listed. God keeps an account of the sleepless nights, of the tears that came in the dark, of the specific quality of the fear in this specific hour. It is not lost. It is not invisible. It is known, and it is recorded by the one who sees everything and forgets nothing and holds everything. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. That is the whole practice. That is the entire spiritual discipline for the sleepless night. Not the removal of the fear first, not the resolution of the problem first, just the turning, the decision. The I am still afraid and I am putting my trust in you anyway. One more time, in this hour, in this night, with the mind still moving and the heart still loud. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Say it. Mean it as much as you can. Mean it even if you cannot mean it fully. And let the God who records your tears hold you through whatever is left of this night. Loneliness is one of the oldest human experiences. It was the first thing God looked at in the garden and named as not good, before the fall, before any of the things we usually think of as problems entered the world. Loneliness was the first thing that was named as wrong. It is not good for man to be alone. And God made someone and brought her to him. The desire for connection, the ache of isolation, the specific pain of feeling unseen or unknown or like you are going through something that no one around you fully understands. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs that you were made for something that you do not yet fully have. You were made for connection. You were made to be known. You were made for the kind of presence that goes all the way down, that sees past the surface version and knows the complicated underneath and stays anyway. That kind of knowing is ultimately found in God, and it is also found partially and imperfectly in the people he puts alongside us. And the stories we're going to tell are about both. About the God who sees the isolated and the lonely, and about the surprising ways he brings people alongside the ones who need them. You are not as alone as you feel right now. The feeling is real. And it is not the whole truth. Elijah sat under the broom tree. We have already told part of this story. The great prophet who ran into the wilderness after the victory on Mount Carmel. The man who said, "I have had enough," Lord, and lay down and slept. But there is a part of the story that comes a little later. After the sleep and the food and the 40 days of walking, Elijah arrived at the mountain of God, at the cave, and spent the night there. And the word of the Lord came to him. "What are you doing here, Elijah?" he replied. "I have been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. I am the only one left." He believed it. The man who had just seen fire fall from heaven believed that he was the last faithful person in all of Israel, that the community of God had been reduced to exactly one person, him alone on a mountain, waiting to die. God told him to go and stand on the mountain, and a great wind came, and an earthquake, and fire, and after the fire, a still small voice. And God asked again, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And Elijah said it again, "I am the only one left." And God said, "Go back the way you came. And by the way, I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal." 7,000. Elijah thought he was the only one. There were 7,000. He was so deep in his isolation that he could not see the community that existed all around him, the ones who had stayed faithful, the ones who were there. The loneliness told him he was the only one. The loneliness was wrong. It almost always is. Moses was sitting by a well. He had fled from Egypt. After killing an Egyptian who was beating a Hebrew slave, the Pharaoh had found out and tried to have him killed. And Moses ran into the wilderness of Midian, alone, a fugitive, far from the people he had grown up with, far from the people he had tried to protect, belonging nowhere. He sat by a well, and 7 daughters came to draw water for their father's flock, and some shepherds came and drove them away, and Moses got up and came to their defense and watered their flock. When the daughters returned to their father, he asked, "Why have you returned so early today?" "An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds," they said. "He even drew water for us and watered the flock." The father said, "Where is he? Why did you leave him?" Invite him to have something to eat." And Moses agreed to stay with the man, and the man gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Moses, running for his life, sitting alone at a well in the wilderness. And within the span of one afternoon he had defended strangers, been invited to a meal, found a home, and gained a family. He was not looking for any of it. He was sitting by a well, alone, with nowhere to go. And the people came to him, and the invitation was extended, and the loneliness had a beginning and a middle and then a different chapter altogether. The broom tree and the well and the cave on the mountain are not the permanent addresses of the isolated. They are the waiting places, the between places, the places where the next part of the story has not yet arrived. Sit by the well. The people are coming. The invitation is being extended. The next chapter has not yet been written. The woman was alone at the well at noon. In the ancient world, women drew water in the morning. In groups. It was a social activity, the gathering place of the community, the place where you were together. She came at noon, alone, the heat of the day, when no one else would be there. She was a Samaritan woman, and she had had 5 husbands, and the man she was currently with was not her husband. She carried the weight of a history that the community had opinions about. That had made the morning gathering with the other women impossible, or at least unbearable. So she came alone, at noon, in the heat, when the well would be empty, and Jesus was sitting there. He asked her for water. She was surprised he would speak to her. Jews did not associate with Samaritans, and a Jewish man would not address an unknown woman in public. And Jesus talked to her about living water, about the kind of thirst that no physical water can satisfy, about the water that would become in a person a spring welling up to eternal life. She said, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." She was tired, not just of the physical task, of the coming alone, of the noon trips to avoid the morning community, of the weight of the history she was carrying. And Jesus said, "Go, call your husband." She answered, "I have no husband." He said, "You are right. You have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband." She changed the subject immediately, the way you do when someone has seen the thing you most wanted to stay hidden. But Jesus did not use the seeing to condemn. He used it to be known, to let her know that she was fully seen, and still being offered the water. She left her water jar, and went back into the city, and said to the people, "Come, see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" She went back to the community she had been avoiding, because she had been seen fully and loved anyway, and the being seen changed everything about where she was willing to go. You are fully seen. Right now, everything you have ever done, everything you carry, everything that keeps you coming to the well at noon, it is known, and the water is still being offered, and the seeing is not condemnation. It is the beginning of being truly known, and truly known is the beginning of the end of the loneliness. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? Psalm 139. David again, writing one of the most astonishing poems about the presence of God in all of human literature. If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. Even there, even in the place that feels furthest from everything, even in the depths, even on the far side of the sea, even in the geographical and emotional and spiritual distance that feels like absolute isolation. Even there, your hand will guide me, your right hand will hold me fast. You cannot get far enough away, you cannot sink low enough. You cannot go to a place remote enough or dark enough or quiet enough that the presence does not follow. Because the presence is not a location, it is not a building or a community or a set of circumstances, it is God Himself. And God Himself is already in the depths you are trying to navigate. Already on the far side of the sea you think you are sailing to alone. Already holding the hand you have not yet extended. If I say, "Surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me," even the darkness will not be dark to you, the night will shine like the day. For darkness is as light to you, the darkness that feels like it is hiding you, feels like you have finally found a place where no one can see you or know you or reach you. And God says, "The darkness is as light to me, I see you in it, I have always seen you in it. The hiding place was never hidden. You are found. You have always been found. Even in the dark, even alone, even on the far side of the sea, even there, his hand holds you fast. Jonathan loved David. The text says it that way. Jonathan loved David as he loved himself, and he made a covenant with David because of that love. David was a shepherd boy who had killed a giant and ended up in the palace of a king who was increasingly suspicious of him, increasingly threatened by him, increasingly murderous toward him. And the king's son, Jonathan, the one who was next in line for the throne, the one who stood to lose the most if David was the one God had chosen to be king instead. That Jonathan loved David, made a covenant with David, gave David his robe and his tunic and his sword and his bow and his belt. He gave away the symbols of his own royalty to the one who was going to replace him. And later, when Saul's murderous intentions toward David became undeniable, Jonathan helped David escape. He put himself between David and his own father's rage, and they wept together when they said goodbye, both of them. And David wept the more. Jonathan said, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord. Go in peace." David was not alone in the wilderness years. He had Jonathan, who loved him with a love that cost him something real, who chose the covenant over the throne, who saw David clearly and chose him anyway. The people who love you at cost to themselves, the ones who see you fully and choose you anyway, the ones who make covenants and keep them when the keeping is expensive. Those people are one of the most concrete ways God fights the loneliness, not by removing the difficulty, by placing someone alongside you in it, someone who will weep with you at the leaving and send you away with peace. You may have a Jonathan, or you may be someone else's Jonathan right now. Either way, the covenant love is real, and it is one of the most human faces of the divine presence. He tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. Isaiah 40 again. In the same passage that speaks about the ones who are weary mounting up on wings like eagles, there is this image, the shepherd gathering the lambs, carrying them close to his heart, not setting them down at a safe distance and watching to make sure they are all right, not directing them from the front with instructions they are expected to follow, gathering them into arms held close to the chest, where the heartbeat is, where the warmth is, where the safest possible place in all of creation is. You are a lamb in those arms right now, whatever the isolation feels like, whatever the loneliness has told you about being forgotten or unseen or too far out to be gathered. He gathers the lambs. He has not missed you. He has not overlooked you in the gathering. He has not decided you are too far out or too difficult to reach. He tends his flock, all of the flock, the ones that are easy and the ones that have wandered, the strong ones and the young ones and the ones that have been out too long in the cold. He gently leads those that have young. The ones carrying something, the ones for whom the pace needs to be slower, the ones who cannot move at the speed of the rest of the flock right now because they are carrying more than the others can see. He leads them gently, not at the pace of the strong, at the pace of the ones that have young, at the pace of the ones that need more time. You are tended, you are gathered, you are carried close to the heart of the shepherd who has not lost track of a single lamb in all of history, not even you, not even now. On the road to Emmaus, 2 disciples were walking. It was the day of the resurrection, but they did not know it yet. They had heard the reports from the women, that the tomb was empty, that angels had appeared, but they had not seen Jesus, and the walking was the walking of people who were trying to make sense of something that had not yet landed. They were talking and discussing these things with each other, and Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them what they were talking about, and they stopped, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said, "Are you the only one visiting Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" And Jesus said, "What things?" And they told him everything about Jesus of Nazareth, the prophet, the crucifixion, the hope they had had that he was the one to redeem Israel. And now it had been 3 days, and the tomb was empty, but they had not seen him. And Jesus walked with them and explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. Beginning with Moses and all the prophets, they arrived at the village. And Jesus acted as if he were going further, but they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it is nearly evening, the day is almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and began to give it to them. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. Were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road? He walked with them while they were confused and grieving and unable to recognize him. He explained the scriptures while they were downcast. He accepted the invitation to stay, and he revealed himself at the table. If you are on the road right now and you cannot see who is walking beside you, the company is still real, the presence is still there. The heart may be burning in a way you have not yet named. He is on the road with you. He has been on the road with you. And there will be a moment at a table somewhere when the bread is broken and the eyes are opened, and you will know who has been walking beside you all along. Some seasons are long, longer than you expected, longer than you were prepared for, long in a way that begins to reshape your sense of what normal is. Long enough that the waiting stops feeling like a temporary condition and starts feeling like just the way things are. The Bible is full of long seasons. Joseph waited 13 years from the dream to the throne. Abraham waited 25 years for the promised son. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before the burning bush. Israel wandered 40 years before the promised land. David was anointed king as a young man and waited years of running and hiding before he actually became king. The waiting is not unusual. The long season is not a sign that the promise has been revoked or that God has forgotten, or that somehow you ended up in a story that is going to end differently from the ones you read about. The long season is part of the story, not the punishment and not the exception, part of the story. The part where the character is being formed and the patience is being built and the trust is being deepened in ways that would not be possible in a shorter season. The story is not over. It has not even arrived at the part that will make sense of the waiting. That part is still coming. And these stories are evidence of it. Story after story of long seasons that ended in a chapter that made the waiting worth it. Listen, and let the stories do what they have always done. Hold the hope until yours comes back. Joseph was 17 years old when his brothers threw him in a pit. He had been given a coat by his father that set him apart. He had dreamed 2 dreams about his family bowing before him. He had gone out to check on his brothers in the fields, and they had stripped him of his coat and thrown him in a dry cistern and sat down to eat a meal while he was in the pit, and then sold him to Ishmaelite traders heading to Egypt. 13 years passed between that pit and the throne room of Pharaoh. 13 years of slavery and false accusation and prison and forgotten promises. 13 years of the dreams that had been given at 17 seeming more absurd with every passing year. In Egypt, his master's wife accused him falsely, and he was thrown in prison. In the prison, he interpreted dreams for 2 of Pharaoh's servants, and he asked one of them, "When you are restored to your position, remember me and mention me to Pharaoh." And the cupbearer forgot. For 2 full years. 2 full years after the forgetting. And then Pharaoh had a dream, and no one could interpret it. And the cupbearer finally remembered. And Pharaoh summoned Joseph from prison, and Joseph interpreted the dream. 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt to prepare. And the famine came, and Joseph's brothers came to Egypt to buy grain, and bowed before him without recognizing him, just as the dream had shown 17 years earlier. Joseph said to his brothers when he finally revealed himself, "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." The pit was not the end of the story. The slavery was not the end. The prison was not the end. The 2 years of forgetting were not the end. The story was going somewhere the whole time. And the place it was going was worth the 13 years it took to get there. Abraham was 75 years old when God first made the promise. "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Abraham went, he and Sarah and Lot. They traveled to Canaan, and God appeared to Abraham again. "To your offspring I will give this land." Abraham built an altar. Years passed. 10 years after arriving in Canaan, Sarah still had not conceived. She was now 75. She gave her servant Hagar to Abraham, and Hagar bore Ishmael. And God appeared to Abraham again when he was 99 years old. I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. I will confirm my covenant between me and you will be the father of many nations. Abraham fell face down, and God said, Your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born. Sarah was 90, 25 years from the first promise to the birth of the child through whom the promise would come, a quarter of a century, most of it in silence, without visible progress, without evidence that the promise was moving toward fulfillment. And during those years Abraham was not always steady. He lied about Sarah being his wife. He took Hagar on Sarah's suggestion. He laughed when God told him a 90-year-old woman would have a son. He was not perfectly faithful during the waiting. He was human during the waiting. He doubted and second-guessed and tried to help the promise along in ways that were not his place. And the promise came anyway, because the promise was not based on Abraham's performance during the waiting. It was based on the character of the one who made it. Isaac was born, and Sarah said, God has brought me laughter. Everyone who hears about this will laugh with me 25 years, and then laughter. Your waiting is known, and the one who made the promise is still making good on it. The valley of dry bones. Ezekiel was taken by the Spirit of the Lord and set down in the middle of a valley, and the valley was full of bones, dry bones, scattered across the valley floor, very dry. The dryness is emphasized. These were not recently dead things. These were bones that had been dry for a long time, that any remaining hope had long since left. And God asked Ezekiel, Son of man, can these bones live? And Ezekiel said, Sovereign Lord, you alone know. The honest answer, not a confident yes, not a theological assertion about what God is capable of, just the humble acknowledgement that he did not know, that the bones looked very dry, but that God knew things he did not know. Sovereign Lord, you alone know. God told him to prophesy to the bones, and Ezekiel did. And as he prophesied, there was a rattling sound. And the bones came together, bone to bone, and tendons appeared, and flesh covered them, and skin covered that, and God said, Prophesy to the breath. And Ezekiel prophesied, and breath entered them, and they lived, and stood up, a vast army. These bones are the people of Israel, God said. They say our bones are dried up and our hope is gone, we are cut off. They had lost hope. They had assessed the situation and determined that there was nothing left. The bones were too dry, the time had been too long, the damage was too complete. And God breathed on the dry bones, and a vast army stood up. Your bones may feel very dry, the season may have been very long, the hope may have been assessed and found to be gone. And God is asking, can these bones live? Sovereign Lord, you alone know. Let that be your answer. Not a confident yes you do not feel, not a despairing no that forecloses what only God can see, just the honest, open, humble acknowledgement that he knows things you do not know. And let him prophesy to the bones. He has done it before. Hannah wept and would not eat. She had prayed for a child for years, and no child had come. And her husband's other wife Peninnah had children, and provoked her year after year until she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah said to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? He loved her, and he did not understand the specific shape of what she was carrying, which is its own kind of loneliness, the grief that the people who love you most cannot fully reach. And Hannah got up. After they had finished eating and drinking, she was in deep anguish. She prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly. Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life. She was making a bargain from a place of desperation. She was not at her most composed. She was weeping so visibly that the priest Eli thought she was drunk. And Eli said, How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine. Not drunk, she said. I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have been pouring out my soul to the Lord. And Eli said, Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. And she went away and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Before anything had changed, before the prayer had been answered, before the son had been conceived, After a conversation with a priest who had initially misread the whole situation, her face was no longer downcast. Something shifted in the praying, in the pouring out, in the bringing of the specific shape of the grief directly to God. Not a polished prayer, a desperate one, a weeping, bitter, bargaining prayer that the priest mistook for intoxication. And God remembered her, and she conceived, and bore a son, and named him Samuel, which means heard by God. The specific shape of what you are carrying, the grief that the people who love you most cannot fully reach. God reaches it, He hears it, even the ugly, desperate, weeping version of it. He heard Hannah. He hears you. The prodigal son came to himself. He had taken his inheritance early, spent it all, ended up feeding pigs in a foreign country, so hungry he wanted to eat what the pigs were eating. And he came to himself. That phrase, he came to himself, as though the hunger and the loneliness and the distance from home had finally produced a kind of clarity, a returning to who he actually was, underneath the bad decisions and the wasted years and the place he had ended up. He came to himself and said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.'" He rehearsed the speech. He knew what he was going to say. He prepared for a reduced role, for servant status. He did not expect to be received as a son. And while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him, and ran to him and threw his arms around him and kissed him. The father was watching the road. He had been watching the road long enough to see the figure while it was still a long way off, long enough that when the shape of his son appeared on the horizon, he recognized it at that distance. He ran. Old men in the ancient world did not run. It was undignified. It was beneath the social station of a man of means. He ran anyway, because the son who was dead was alive, and the son who was lost was found, and no amount of dignity was worth the delay of a single moment between seeing and holding. He ran. If you have been in the far country, if the hunger has finally produced the clarity, if you are rehearsing the speech about being made a servant, he is already watching the road. He has already seen you at a distance. He is already running. You do not have to finish the speech. The robe is already in his hands. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah 29. Written to people in exile, in Babylon, far from home, in the middle of a very long season that they did not choose and could not control. This is not a promise made to people sitting in comfort. It is a promise made to exiles, to people who had lost everything and been carried to a foreign land and been told by God through Jeremiah to settle in, to build houses, to plant gardens, to have children, to seek the peace and prosperity of the city they had been taken to settle in for the long season, because the long season was real, and pretending it was shorter than it was would not help. And in the middle of that settling in the middle of the honest acknowledgement of how long the exile was going to be, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope." The plans exist. They are known to the one who holds them. They are not in flux. They are not contingent on the exile resolving itself quickly. They are plans for the person in the middle of the long season. Plans for the exile, plans for the waiting, plans to give you a future and a hope. The future exists. The hope is real. Both are already in the plans, already accounted for, already moving toward you even while you are in the middle of the season that does not yet feel like it has a future or a hope. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Seek and find, in the exile, in the long season, in the year that feels like it has no future, and the season that has tested everything. He is findable. He has always been findable. And the plans are still the plans. Future and hope, coming, for you, in the exile, declared by the Lord. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Paul wrote this from prison. To the church at Philippi, a letter full of joy written by a man in chains. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. He began it. The beginning was his, and the carrying on is his, and the completion is his. The whole thing from first to last is in his hands, not your hands, not your discipline or your consistency or your ability to hold it together through the long season. His hands, the one who began it, the one who is carrying it on, will carry it on to completion. The work is not abandoned, it is not stalled, it is not contingent on your performance in the difficult season. It is being carried, right now, continuously, by the one who started it, and it will be completed, not approximately completed, not mostly finished, completed, all the way through, everything that was begun carried all the way to the end, until the day of Christ Jesus. There is a day coming, a day that is the end of the story, the day toward which every incomplete thing is moving, the day on which every work begun will be finally and fully finished, every waiting ended, every exile over, every bone that was dry standing as a vast army, every Hannah holding her Samuel, every prodigal home at the table. The day is coming, and until it comes, he who began a good work in you is carrying it on, right now, in the long season, in the uncertainty, in the incomplete thing that feels like it might stay incomplete forever. He is carrying it on to completion. You are not finished. The story is not finished. The good work is still being worked, and the one doing the working has never once abandoned a project he began. You have made it to the end of this series, of this day, of this week, of whatever season brought you here and kept you listening across 7 parts and all the stories in between. You have heard about Elijah under the broom tree, and Hagar at the well, and Mary weeping in the garden, and Daniel in the den, and the woman at the noon well, and the prodigal and the dry bones, and the disciples in the storm. You have heard about a God who provides fish for drowning prophets and food for exhausted ones, who sees the slave woman alone in the wilderness and the boy asleep in the temple and the disciples on the wrong side of the storm, who runs toward the returning son before the speech is finished and weeps at the tomb before the resurrection happens. All of those stories were about the same God, the same character from beginning to end, consistent across every century and every kind of human darkness and every variety of need, present, providing, seeing, running, weeping, holding, restoring, not at a distance, close, close enough to say a name the way only he can say it, close enough to touch the shoulder of the exhausted prophet, close enough to wash feet on the last night. That God is here right now, in whatever room you are in whatever hour this finds you, in whatever the specific shape of your need is tonight. He has not moved. He has not looked away. He is the same yesterday and today and forever. And these are just a few of his stories. There are more. There will always be more, because the story is still going, and you are part of it. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Let us come back to where we started, to the green pastures and the quiet waters, to the psalm that has been spoken at bedsides and gravesides and in hospital rooms and in the dark of ordinary sleepless nights for 3,000 years. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, all the days of my life. Not the good days, not the days when things are going well and the green pasture is visible and the quiet water is near. All the days, the dark valley days too, the days in the pit, the days under the broom tree, the days at the noon well, the days in the storm and in the fish and in the exile, all the days. Goodness and love following, not leading, following, coming behind, covering the ground you have already covered, tending to what the day has done to you as you move through it. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever, forever. The place past all the seasons, past the long waits and the dark nights and the dry bones, the dwelling place that is permanent and full and finally free of the weight that the journey has cost. Forever. The green pasture is real, the quiet water is real, the restoration is real, and the forever is coming. It is already coming. Rest in that for a moment. Right now. in the green pasture beside the quiet water. Let the soul be restored. The disciples were in the upper room. It was the evening of the first day of the week. The doors were locked because they were afraid. And Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you. Peace be with you." The first words of the risen Jesus to the frightened gathered community were not a commission or a theological explanation or a review of the events of the last 3 days. Peace be with you. The shalom, the Hebrew concept that carries so much more than the English word peace. Shalom means wholeness, completeness, the state in which nothing is missing and nothing is broken and everything is as it was meant to be. Peace be with you. To the people behind locked doors, to the frightened ones, to the ones who had not yet understood what had happened, who were still processing the grief and the confusion and the distance between what they had hoped and what had seemed to happen. Peace be with you. He showed them his hands and his side, the wound still there, the evidence of the cost, and the disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. And he said again, "Peace be with you," twice, as though once was not enough, as though he wanted to make sure it landed, as though the peace he was offering was not a passing greeting but a genuine transfer, something being given, something real, something that would hold even when the doors were still locked and the world was still frightening and the full understanding had not yet come. Peace be with you. That peace is for you too, right now, in whatever room you are in, behind whatever locked doors, still processing whatever the season has been. Peace be with you. He says it twice if necessary, as many times as it takes for it to land. Peace. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11. Jesus speaking to a crowd of people who were working very hard under a very heavy system, religious requirements that had multiplied until they crushed rather than sustained, the weight of a law that had become about performance rather than about the God who gave it. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, not come to me when you have rested, not come to me when the burden has been lightened and you have something more presentable to bring. Come as you are, weary, burdened, in need of the thing you cannot produce for yourself, and I will give you rest. He will give it. Not you will find it if you follow the right steps, not you will earn it if you do the right things. He will give it. The giving is his, the receiving is yours. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Rest for your souls, not just rest for your body, not just sleep for the tired mind. Rest for the soul, the deep rest, the kind that reaches the place the sleep cannot reach, the place where the anxious spinning happens and the grief lives and the fear waits. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The yoke he gives is not the crushing one. It is made for the one who wears it, fitted to the specific shape of the life. Easy, light, not because the life it carries you through is easy or light, but because the one carrying the other end of the yoke is bearing the weight that your side cannot bear. Come to me, weary and burdened, right now, exactly as you are. The rest is already prepared. The yoke is already fitted. The giving is already underway. Come, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91. Read it slowly. Let every line do what it is trying to do. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. He will cover you with His feathers, the image of a bird sheltering its young, the chicks gathered under the wings, hidden from the cold and the dark and the things that fly by night, warm, safe, present in the shelter without needing to understand the threat. The chick does not understand what the wings are protecting it from. It just knows that the wings are there, that the warmth is real, that it is covered. If I have 1,000 worries tonight, and none of them resolve, and the morning comes without the answers I was hoping for, I am still covered. The feathers are still there. The refuge is still real. The faithfulness is the shield, whether or not I can feel it doing its work. Because you have made the Lord your refuge, the Most High your dwelling, No harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent, for he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. All your ways, not the easy ones, not the days when the path is clear and the danger is visible and the guard is obviously necessary. All your ways. You are covered, you are guarded, you are sheltered under wings that do not tire and do not fold. Rest in that. Let the shelter be enough for tonight. The Lord bless you and keep you. Numbers 6. The priestly blessing, spoken over the people of Israel by Aaron and his sons. Words that God gave Moses as the specific form of blessing to be pronounced over the community. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. And God said, so they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them. The pronouncing of the blessing is the placing of the name of God spoken over a person, the identity of the one who made the heavens and the earth placed on the ones he made, as a covering, as a claim, as a declaration of belonging. You belong to the one who blesses and keeps, who makes his face shine, who is gracious, who turns his face toward you, who gives peace. That is the name on you, the name placed there by the same words that have been spoken over God's people for 3,000 years. In synagogues and churches and around tables and at bedsides. The same words, the same blessing, the same name. The Lord bless you and keep you. Let those words settle over you right now like a hand placed gently on the head, the ancient blessing for you, in this moment, in whatever the season is. The Lord make his face shine on you, the face of God turn toward you, shining, not away, not indifferent, not preoccupied with larger concerns. Turn toward you specifically, shining the way a face shines when it looks at something it loves. And give you peace, peace, again, the shalom, the wholeness, the nothing missing and nothing broken state that is the final destination of every journey the stories in this series have described. It is coming. It is already being given. The blessing is real. The Lord bless you and keep you. And finally, the last verse of the last psalm. Psalm 150. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Not because everything is resolved, not because the waiting is over or the grief is finished or the fear has gone, not because the long season has ended or the dry bones have all stood up or the prodigal has been home long enough for the celebration to feel normal, because there is breath, because the breath is itself a gift, because the lungs that drew air in at the beginning of this and are drawing it in now at the end are doing the thing only living things do. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. You have breath, right now. The breath that is in you is the same kind of breath that was breathed into the first human being at the beginning of everything, the same gift, the same sign of the same life, given by the same God, and the breath is reason enough, in whatever the season is, in whatever the darkness holds, in whatever the unanswered question and the long wait and the dry bone situation, you have breath, and the one who gave it is the one these stories have all been about. The one who makes the shepherd lie down in green pastures, who finds Hagar in the wilderness, who sends the angel to the broom tree, who weeps at the tomb, who runs down the road, who stands among the locked doors and says peace, who calls the name the way only he can call it, who holds the lamb close to his heart, who carries the work he began all the way to completion. That God, the God of all of these stories, is the God of your breath. Right now, in this moment, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Breathe and rest, and let that be enough. Father, we come to the end of these stories with quieter hearts than the ones we started with, and we thank you for that, for the way the old stories still do what they have always done, for the way the words spoken across thousands of years still land in this specific hour and this specific need. We thank you for Elijah under the broom tree, for the reminder that exhaustion is allowed, that the angel comes with food and water, and the simple instruction to rest because the journey is too much. We thank you that the journey being too much is not a verdict on us. It is a fact you already know and have already provided for. We thank you for Hagar in the wilderness, for the God who sees, El Roi, the one who finds the alone ones on the roads to nowhere and speaks and names and gives something to walk toward. We thank you that no wilderness is remote enough to be outside your sight. We thank you for the woman at the noon well, for the knowing that is not condemnation, for the name spoken in the way only you can speak it, for the living water offered to the thirsty ones who have been carrying the specific shape of their need for longer than they expected to carry it. We thank you for the valley of dry bones, for the question that holds the possibility open. Can these bones live? Sovereign Lord, you alone know. For the breath that enters the dry things and makes them stand, for the fact that very dry is not the same as impossible for you. We thank you for Hannah weeping in the temple, for receiving the ugly, desperate prayer, for hearing the poured-out soul and calling the child into being and naming him heard by God, for the reminder that the specific shape of our grief is not too specific for your attention. We thank you for the father who ran, who was watching the road, who saw the returning one at a distance and ran before the speech was finished, who threw the robe around the shoulders that had not yet earned it and called for the celebration before the full accounting had been made. We thank you for grace that is faster than our preparation, that arrives before we have finished deciding we deserve it. We thank you for the disciples in the storm and the sleeping Jesus and the immediate hand that reached for Peter while he was still sinking, for the peace be with you spoken into the locked room, for the presence that does not require us to have it together before it comes to be with us. We thank you for the green pasture and the quiet water and the restoration of the soul, for the shepherd who makes the sheep lie down because he knows the sheep will not stop on its own, for the carrying close to the heart, for the gentleness with the ones that have young. We thank you for the long stories, for Joseph's 13 years and Abraham's 25 and Hannah's years and the exile's 70, for the evidence in every long season that the plans exist and are good and are moving even when they are not visible, for he who began a good work will carry it on to completion. And we thank you for the breath in every person listening to these words right now, the breath that is the gift and the sign and the reason enough, the breath that connects us all the way back to the beginning when you bent close to the dust and breathed life into what would become everything. You are close. You have always been close, close enough to breathe, close enough to call a name, close enough to run down a road, close enough to weep at a tomb, close for the one who is exhausted tonight. Rest. The angel is already here. The food is already prepared. The journey is too much for you, and that is known and provided for. You are allowed to lie down. It is not failure. It is the grace of the broom tree. Take it. For the one who is afraid, the hand is already reaching. Before the cry has finished, before the sinking has gone too far, the immediately is already in motion. You are not too far out, and the water is not too deep, and the hand that caught Peter is the same hand that is reaching for you right now. For the one who is grieving, weep fully without apology. The one who wept at the tomb is with you in yours. The brokenhearted are his specific concern. The wounds are being bound by hands that tend the specific place with all the care of the one who made it. For the one who cannot sleep, the one who watches over you neither slumbers nor sleeps. The night is not empty, the hours are not wasted. The dark is as light to him, and he sees you in it, and his right hand holds you fast even now. For the one who feels alone, he is on the road with you. He has been on the road with you. The heart may have been burning for longer than you realized, and there is a table coming, and the bread will be broken, and the eyes will be opened, and you will know who has been there all along. For the one in the long season, the plans are good, the future is real, the hope is already in the plans. He who began the good work is carrying it on. The dry bones can live, the valley has a sunrise coming. And for everyone, the blessing that was spoken over the people of God 3,000 years ago is spoken over you right now. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Let everything that has breath praise the Lord. Breathe and rest, and know that you are held. World without end. Amen.